Hello, my name is Carolyn Stevenson Grellas. I have loved poetry most of my life, but recently graduated from Vermont College of Fine Arts with my Master's of Writing and Poetry. And I would say my passion for poetry began about 16 years ago. After my mother died, I began really writing more seriously. So today I'm going to read poems that have been previously published, and also a couple of new poems from my creative thesis from for my degree. So, An Umbrella Problem. The ubiquitous merit of pi is crucial for estimating aerial room when ordering canopies from a non-refundable source. Not wanting to remove too much sky from view could prove tricky had I not relived 6th grade math every night with my daughter after evening meals. So I offered circumference to diameter ratios and explained irrational numbers, the value of Euclidean space over calculating clouds soon obscured from a collapsible shade. Vin, the order taker, suggested quadrangles rather than circles, parallelograms instead of rounds, and rhombuses to curves. But I told him we were pi freaks, my daughter and I. We loved to measure the rim of infinity, evaluate the interior of a perfect sphere, the heart inside the whole, and the innumerable possibilities encompassed within. Motherless. Mother, nothing's quite the same these days, and living is a harder thing to do. The way the roses cup the sun is so unbearable, reminding me of you as blossoms quiver, all unwoven, grasping hummingbirds and bees. The way your lip became a trembling flower. The cry for morphine on your tongue, with sorrow as we count the hour. Unknowing all the quickness in a seraph's step, their wings a dance with grace. But how I miss the comfort of your face. Yours was not a selfish way to die. Our home, your hospice, as we each took turns to lie beside you in your bed, like shepherds guiding you to light. Though one by one we whispered, do not go gentle into that good night. You, much braver than I'd ever known, a warrior when illness stole your flesh, but left a hollow where a body used to sleep. Sometimes I weep, then wish I had a minute more to say. Your beauty was magnificent, especially on your dying day. I think of you, our midnight's last goodbye, remembering you said my name, and then I watched you fly. Confessions at Midnight. Since it isn't rape if you've asked for it, if you've left your bosom half exposed to light, the other a hidden promise to come, or an invitation to an unwanted admirer, your chest dabbed with mineral oil and Shalimar. Since everyone knows good girls don't find mischief, and mischief doesn't find them, love being so complex and all, a moment of passion easily confused by at least one of the two parties, especially the one who didn't hear no. Since making a call to 911 isn't easy in the midst of having your body pressed against the cold glass table he used to set his tumbler on 5 minutes earlier before things got out of hand, just after you'd offered him a cocktail. Since pretending nothing happened made it go away for the first few years, until the night you gazed beyond your window hoping to see the moon's face, but instead you saw a lie in the moon's place, like an arrogant intruder in the dark. Since you're older now and have daughters of your own, and you need to break your silence, to let them know once you were vulnerable, once your fury was hushed by fear, fear of judgment by the ones you loved, but especially the ones you didn't. Fear you'd be unbeautiful, undone, and you'd realize how much was taken from you so long ago on a night you'd hoped forgotten, and a memory you'd wished erased. So you picked up the phone and dialed RAIN, Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network. since the woman that answered the phone sounded a little bit like your mother, and you almost hung up ashamed to give your name. And part of you wished she was your mother, encouraging you to do the right thing. And then you said, I want to report a rape that happened 40 years ago. And you felt the light of the moon pierce through the darkness like some kind of otherworldly intrusion of truth. Sweet as your mother's kiss, soft against your face, just as you remembered it, even though she's been dead for over a decade. So you hung up the phone and wept a little, not for the telling, but for the not telling, the years of keeping it between you and God, tucked inside your heart's pocket of old stories never shared. And then you wept for all the years of being ashamed about something so heinous that was never your fault. Anne Frank's diary speaks. For she marked the date, June 12, 1942, her minuscule habitat in lieu of dying. But you will only know the parchment of her skin, the broken, fragmented days between heaven, hate, and back again, those far-reaching matters of genocide that seized her thin frame and glowing heart. I knew her well, long years together and apart, enduring the horrors of war. Her vellum soul inked, bookcase yellowed, soft voice unforgotten as it bellowed silent from the annex, an underground love like a hidden weapon stored in the labyrinth of hollows. Dear sanctuary girl, her tattooed story etched on checkerboard tome, words held secret, withstanding parades of Holocaust-angled crosses, clockwise bent, swastikas pacing murky streets, sweet-penned being denying death, her hand unrelenting, extraordinary child, unstoppable thing, despite how she wept, how she wept, how she wept, where no consequence could thwart memories divinely kept. Oh, Anne, you're alive in your letters, chronicled from home through the house beyond bones, empty shoes and body piles, your entries robbed, cloud high, still unwritten, lost cries from a visceral space, goodness diarized past your nameless betrayer, coward Nazi from an ominous space, anonymous, anonymous, anonymous. On a Saturday night with little to do but this. Once I told my professor that I wrote a poem about falling in love with Robert Bly. I wouldn't suggest it, he said with a grin, and moved on to a discussion of enjambment. But that opening line Bly wrote, all day I've loved you in a fever, I'm overwhelmed when I read a line like that. Don't get hung up on the beginnings, my professor said. Remove the first stanza from every poem you write. Some things are heightened by the power of omission, the way the unspoken lingers like a quiet prayer that finds its path to God. Which reminded me of my mother and her old address book, nameless entries scribbled across paper in leaning left-handed scroll, a code only she knew, as if she was being secretive in her usual, almost sacred style of unsharing. Maybe poets aren't supposed to fall in love. I wondered if my professor was warning my heart itself with something he instinctively knew, the same way my mother left off those names. I wanted to open my mother's old book and dial one of those saved numbers because something in their anonymity made them feel like a chance to go back in time. Or maybe it was just because she added a note at the bottom of one page. Today is a wonderful day, like an epilogue, a nod to serendipity and promise, as if Robert Bly might pick up the receiver and say, I love you. Daily Laments. There are little lessons I teach my father every day as he forgets with age all that I remember. I have become his device for retrieving information about all things television, all things birthdays, and all things he called his life. Sometimes I ask him to spell the word trouble backward, as if there's a consolation prize for knowing vowels and consonants in reverse order. His daily test for what we might call a good day, when he knows his way around trouble. But there are days we agree what a difficult game this can be, days when the letters get lost somewhere between the childhood mind and every year that followed. Don't worry, I'll say. Don't let it trouble you. And then we laugh and decide trouble is an annoying word anyway, and who cares how it's spelled? Because it's easy to know when trouble is brewing, when things are more trouble than they're worth, when you're asking for trouble or keeping out of trouble or even meeting trouble halfway. And on those days, we just sit together and take out photos, and we go over all the names of his kids and grandkids and the photos from when he was a kid too. And then he pulls out his old ball and glove and says someday he'd like to pitch for the Giants, stand on the mound like he used to back in the day, because sometimes it's only about catching the ball and throwing strikes and memories of being a boy again. How every game is Game 7. And on those days, I smile and say, "Yes, Dad, that's how you spell trouble." Your mammogram appointment. They will tell you, do not apply powders on the day of your appointment. Do wear a two-piece outfit, the top half easily removed for a quick change, as we provide a loose upper gown, free of buckles and zippers. The same one you wore last time, celadon green, washed and pressed, stored with all the old films. Avoid long dangling earrings saved for Saturday nights and the supple grace of your décolletage. Never bring children. They will not be able to accompany you to the X-ray department, where you will be asked to reach in and guide your fleshy teardrop to the imaging machine for what is termed a routine screening. But someone forgot to mention, nothing about this is routine. Right, left, lump,